We're now going to play two reels composed by Pory Ganley. The first one is Mrs. Janelle. The second one is the Sinn Féiners of Westmeath. 2.
The music that Geraldine and her students are playing is composed by a man who had a fascinating story. And to tell it, we have to go back in history and then travel far away. In 1875, just a few decades since the famine, according to the Freeman's Journal, 21,722 Irish people left Ireland in that 1 year, part of one of the largest emigrations in Irish history. But the Westmeath immigrants were not heading to the usual America or Australia. They were off to a far stranger place, the Republic of Argentina. As the famous Father Fahey, who helped so many Irish who went to Argentina, wrote,
"Would to God that Irish immigrants would come to this country instead of going to the United States. Here they would feel at home, they would have plenty of employment. There is not a finer country in the world for a poor man to come to."
Family and friends who had gone before to faraway Argentina were writing back about the higher wages and greater opportunities it offered, and the articles in the newspapers confirmed it. Irish settlement in South America.
It is not generally known that there is a large and prosperous Irish settlement in the Argentine Republic in South America. In one of the provinces, Buenos Aires, there is a population of almost 100,000, of which half are Irish. It is a rich grazing country, and the most extensive farmers are Irish men who hold large tracts of land and carry a wool trade that rivals Australia's.
60% of the Irish that are in Argentina are from this particular area, and there is hardly an area in this, I suppose, along the Longford-Westmeath border that doesn't have a connection. And I think what interests me is an awful lot of people don't know that they have a connection.
In 1875, 18-year-old Padraic Ganly, fourth child of 7 and third son from near Moat in County Westmeath, joined all those heading off to far-off Argentina. Possibly buying his ticket from someone like William Mulvihill's grocery store in Ballymahon, who was the agent for the River Plate Steamship Company in the Midlands. The ticket would probably have been to Liverpool via Dublin for just over £2, finding lodgings in Liverpool until his ship would leave, and then a 77-day trip to Buenos Aires and an uncertain future. In Argentina, the 40,000 or so Catholic Irish that arrived in Catholic Argentina were thought of as ingleses, which translates as English, but more accurately as British. This perception of them meant that they were highly sought after for work, as the British were seen as hard and reliable workers.
It was a big change for people to go from rural Ireland out to these big estancias in Buenos Aires.
But why was Padraic Ganly so special? Well, his tale of discovery today begins with a visit from Texas.
1999, a lady came to visit in Ireland called Nora Poulos, and she was from Texas. And she is related to this Padraic Ganly, and she visited our house, and I know she went to Ballinacliffey.
His name had been mentioned years ago when people came from Texas and they were inquiring about the Ganley family. And some people sent them here to have a chat with us. And that kind of got me interested in the Ganley side then of the family.
I suppose I had a friend who was taking a PhD in the University of Limerick. I spent time in the University of Limerick as well, doing Irish music. And she's a real bookworm, like most PhD people. So she turned around one day and was like, "Have you heard of this Ganley guy, you know, Westmeath? He's all the way down in Buenos Aires, ... Yeah, so that was the first time, probably about 6 or 7 years ago.
By the few accounts we have, Padraic was a gifted fiddler and composer, and a welcome addition at the bailes, or dances that were held every night during the shearing season back on the sheep farms of Argentina. The gauchos might spend a month or so shearing on a large estancia with men and women shearing together. Then in the evenings they would have music and dancing. An uilleann piper from Patagonia in southern Argentina was also told of her fellow musician and countryman Padraic Ganly.
In 2019, I went to Ireland. I was playing in a session in Dublin at the Copperstone, and the fiddle player beside me was Liam O'Connor. When I told him that I was from Argentina, he told me about a book with Irish music that was written in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, in 1918. So I was really impressed for that, and the next day I went to ITMA to visit him, and he introduced me on that book, and it was an amazing surprise for me.
And he spent 7 years herding sheep out in the estancias out in Argentina, and then after that he seems to have become more of a manager and an administrator of a big ranch there. And then by the 1890s, 1892, I think he married a girl who was of Irish extraction. She was an Argentinian girl, but both her parents were Irish. And at the end of the 19th century, about 1899, he came back briefly to Moat.
And I think lived here for 2 years. And in the 1901 census form, you find the Padraic Ganly living in Moat, and his wife was Maria, born in Argentina, and their daughter was Elena, and so I was sure that that was the correct man. When he returned after living in Ireland, I believe he bought some land in Lincoln, in the province of Buenos Aires, again where lots of the Irish would have been, and he also had an estancia in Córdoba.
Since I found out about the story and the music of Ganley, I started to learn and play his music, to record his music, and to teach his music in Argentina.
Today we're going to learn a little bit of one of Pory Ganley's tunes.
Okay.
Did you ever hear of Pory Ganley?
No,
Never.
never.
Do you remember me telling you about this fella that went off from County Westmeath over to Argentina?
Yeah.
That's him, and became a big sheep farmer and real wealthy. This is him, so we're going to learn a little bit of one of his reels today, and the name of it is Inishmore on Loughree. So you live near Loughrea.
Yeah.
So imagine he composed this tune about near where you live. Now a high D and a C is our first two notes. And a B.
About 10 years ago, I just happened to be looking at the ITMA website. I was interested in traditional music in Westmeath, just looked it up and I saw this reference to Padraic Ganly, Public the Heron, and it spiked my interest. And then when I looked at the content of the book, the 110 tunes, they broke down into kind of ones that had topographical names, and most of those were townlands between Glasson and Moat. And then there were some political ones which obviously showed that he was politically aware from early on, and then there were ones that just showed kind of a graw for home, that he was kind of nostalgic, I suppose. There were a lot of little references back to the hawthorn tree and various things. When he died in 1949, he was 92 years of age. He seems to be a very highly regarded guy, because I read his obituary from the Southern Cross, and he was referred to as Don Patricio. You know, he had been born Padraic Ganly and changed it to Pory for his nationalist reasons. But Don Patricio sounds a kind of an elevated title for a man that went out to work on a farm out there. I think he had done very well for himself, and I think he was certainly well regarded by the Irish in Argentina, and probably by the Argentinians too.
Remember, because Pory Ganley had such an input in the history of Ireland at that time, he named quite a lot of his tunes after historical events, like the 1916 Rising, the Troubles in Ireland in the 20s. But even though he wrote about those, he wrote his tunes about those, the reels are still, do you think they're happy? Yeah, so he wrote happy music. Nice to know. Now, will we try our next selection? What's our next selection? Patrick, you're going to start with mouth organ. Yep. Emily? Men of Easter Week. I think that's the second one, isn't it? What's our first one? Mrs. Janelle of the Hazel Switch. Isn't that it? We're not very sure. Are we sure we know what we're going to play? Right, okay, we'll go for it, okay? And you come in on the second time round, okay?
To play, yeah, it's relatively, it flows pretty well, like, and is kind of, it's very of its time, you know. So you're talking, like, people say, mention parlour music, or that kind of more refined Irish music. It was written by someone who could write music, and that changes things a little bit as well, especially in Irish music, because they say it's an oral tradition. So if someone publishes a book of dots, it's instantly something a bit different.
Earlier there today we played some reels. One of them, you play each part once, a 3-part. Then we went into the second one, you played the first part twice, the second part twice, the third part once, and the fourth part once. He doesn't have a same thing with all his tunes. Everything is different.
And like the Ganley music is very Irish, and you know, it's very traditional-ish. It's just the fact that I said before that the tunes are so long that they kind of exclude themselves from being stuck together.
For the children there's a slight challenge in it, but there's great fun when you have learnt it. When you have it, you say, I got it, I have it, yeah. And then you play it and things are grand. But then you want to move on to the next one.
A letter written in his latter years in 1945 to his grandaunt, a Miss Kilkelly of Athlone, dated 12th of January 1945, and referring to himself in the third person, uncovers the true extent of the undiscovered archive of music.
Up to a few days ago, he has been composing Irish dance melodies not every day, but as the spirit moved him. In a very well-bound volume of the very best paper written by himself, he has 325 hornpipes, reels and jigs. This book is to pass in due course to his heirs. And in another volume, also well-bound, is contained the same 325 tunes arranged for piano, as in both books, and intended to serve the printers to copy from. As his wish to have his music printed here when opportunity offers. It would have been printed already had the composer been able to go home, as was his intention, frustrated by the great powers.
He mentioned in a letter that he had 4 volumes of bound. They weren't published, but they were bound. And one wonders where they are, what has happened to them. Are they in some important collection in Argentina, or have they been lost somewhere along the way?
But the problem now is, we've looked at most of the 110 tunes, and now there's this hunger to know what's in the other 3 books. Dying to know what, but we don't know where they are. Now, hopefully someone somewhere will come across them. I don't know.
The story and the music of Ganly is very important to me because it allows me to reconstruct the history and the identity of Irish music in my country.
I want to learn more I'm learning more of his tunes all the time. But again, that's the thing about Irish music. We never stop learning. There's always something new. It's great. Okay, so that means this gang are done with, yeah? Okay, will you text all your mammies? Now, right, you can all put your fiddles away. Ailish used to stay with me.